Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell, mom of 18 and executive director of the Doula Co-op of Nevada. With more than 15 years in birth work, I've had the privilege of walking beside families through life's transitions. My work centers on connection, community, and amplifying voices that too often go unheard. Each of these episodes is an honest conversation about the messy, beautiful, and transformative experiences that shape us as parents and as people. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the incredible guests who show up with courage and authenticity to share their stories with us. Let's dive right in. Welcome to Becoming Parents. Today I am here with Dan Sneider. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this. I love having men on. It's a different perspective. You know, one I don't have because I'm not a man. And but I want you to, and I love your story, what I've heard about it. I want you to jump in and share your parenting journey with us.
Yeah, happy to. I always want, as far back as I can remember, have wanted to be a parent. And as you know, like most people, it starts with my own childhood, right? And like I said, as far back as I can remember, where there were parts of my childhood that I loved and were safe and precious. And I knew even at the time, like, I love this. I love being a kid. I love having a parent like this. Times reading books in bed with my mom, playing imagination games with my mom, where I just loved it, soaked it in, and couldn't wait to be that kind of father that would have that kind of experience with their kids. The contrast there was growing up in the household with my dad, who, in some ways, was a provider and did well as a parent, but emotionally was incredibly distant and quite volatile. He would come home either really hot, angry, or really cold and distant. And so on the flip side there, as a child, I knew I want to do all of those things very differently as a parent. Not true for everybody, but for me as a young child, I really did have those thoughts of these are things that my mom's doing that I'm going to do as a parent, and I'm so excited for. And these are things that my dad is doing that I am not going to repeat. And I want for my kids to have a different experience. And so that carried through, all the ups and downs of teenage years and going to therapy going to therapy myself, deciding to become a therapist, all of these twists and turns, which we'll maybe talk about more, led to me when I was 30, having my first kiddo, and now I have two kiddos. And those are each wild stories in their own rights of just how those kids came into the world and, where we are now. But yeah, that's a little bit about how I became a parent.
How did therapy go for you as a kid? I mean, you're not this generation now. Like I have a 16-year-old daughter, and you're older than that. So
Yes.
being in your 30s at least, what was it like 15 or 20 years ago to go through therapy? Did you feel like there was any stigma? Was it helpful? I know how I felt about it. I know like talk
Yeah.
therapy can be great. And if you find the right connection, it's awesome. I've had great experiences and not great experiences, which, but what was that like at that age for you to go through therapy? And how did that make you want to do it? How did all of that make you want to go into that as a path? And you actually did it. You actually did go into it as a path.
I did. So yeah, I'll try to answer each one of those really thoughtful questions because there's a lot there.
Mhm.
So I'm a proud millennial, right? So we're recording this in
All right.
2026, and yeah, no, I'm proud.
Good.
I don't get into all the generational stuff. I think every generation has its own, issues, and it's good stuff too. So I started going to therapy in the 90s.
Okay.
I did not want to go. I was very unhappy about it until 5 minutes into my first session and was like, oh, this is amazing. This is a safe place where I get to talk about all the stuff that's going on in my life with someone who cares and is listening and can challenge me on stuff. So I thought it was great right away. But like you said, it does depend on the fit for the person you're talking with. It's just like a teacher, right? If you have a great teacher, school is one kind of way. And if you don't have that good teacher, school is a different kind of way.
Yeah.
So I was bought in right away. I wasn't, bragging to my friends in middle school about going to therapy, but I looked forward to those sessions. And now, as an adult, I look forward to my therapy sessions now.
Mhm.
And that's a place where you can talk in a different kind of way about your experiences and work through things with a professional who can, help guide you. Because if I had it all figured out, and was a perfect person, that would be crazy, right? None of us are. So yeah, I really got a lot out of it right away.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good experience. I still had to make all the mistakes, through my teenage years and my
Yeah.
young adult years. And I like to say that I prepared myself really well to be a therapist because I made all the mistakes, I did all the things. And so I'm very rarely surprised in a therapy session when someone tells me about a thought they had or a thing they said, because I've been there. I've been to a lot of those places. And I'm really grateful to be able to connect with people in the ways that I do. I love getting deep with people and talking through all the stuff that, we don't really talk about at parties, or like when you ask someone how their day is and they say, "Oh, it's fine, it's
Fine.
good." There's more stuff going on there, and I like to get into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love what I do. And anybody who's listening, they can connect with me at intimacyshift.com. That's my landing page where I have some really great handouts,
Mhm.
especially for couples who are wanting to work on their communication and their intimate connection. So people can visit me there to learn more about that work that I do.
And we have that link in the show notes also, so people can find that. But I think that's great that you had such a good experience and wanted to do it and stuck with that. You did a lot of moving around. You had like you did some pretty cool stuff before you settled down. And I think
Mhm.
I didn't. I had my first daughter at 21. It was planned. I was married. It was super young. It was what I
Mhm.
wanted, which is fine. And I saw the value of that time between when you leave your parents' home, usually after high school, and you're married and settle down. Mine was
Mhm.
really condensed, but for when I think about my kids, like that's a really important time of your life where, like, the word selfish isn't a negative word. You get to do things that are all about you and have experiences that are really helpful when you decide to settle down. And you kind of did that. So you somehow in there, you went to school and you did super cool stuff. You backpacked, I think I read, or something. So jump in and tell us about that time up until you were 30, going through school and kind of living your life and how that
Yeah.
impacted you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, yeah, different kind of experience because I had that, 10-ish years in between moving from home and then um, having kids. And so during that time, I, not on purpose was making all the mistakes that I
Oh,
mentioned,
that's
but
when the mistakes were happening.
yeah,
Okay, see, I didn't
yeah.
expect that. Okay, okay, this is great.
Exactly. Well, and mistakes have happened since then too.
Sure.
But yeah, so I did travel a lot. I spent a lot of time outside. So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, went to school for a long time, and decided I wanted to spend more time in wilderness outside. And so ended up after traveling around a bit in Colorado and spent a lot of time backpacking, rock climbing, getting up to the top of all the high places that I could. And something that I wanted during all that time was a really close, intimate connection, a partnership with someone. But because of, that just being a hard thing to find for me, and because of my background, it didn't happen until it happened. So I filled a lot of that time with other things like traveling and rock climbing and backpacking and all these experiences, which were wonderful. But in some ways were hollow. Like I said, I knew that I wanted to be a parent from an early age, and that was still kind of left, undone. And a part of becoming a parent is you need another person to do it
I
almost
mean, not
always.
always, but
Not
yeah,
always, but
it's
almost
helpful.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was living in Colorado and met the person who became my wife. And then later in the story, we separated, divorced, and are not together anymore. But we met in Colorado. And she, like me, wanted to become a parent and had thought about that for a long time. And the story then gets kind of more interesting there as we did not plan to have our first kiddo. That happened actually as a result of she had been told she would not be able to get pregnant. She was told that she had PCOS and it was going to be very difficult for her. So me in a kind of mansplaining way was like, well, let's go off birth control. Let's go see some doctors. Let's get some information. And she was pregnant immediately. And so we had our first baby about a year after we first met. So we loved each other, cared about each other, were committed to each other, but it did happen much more quickly and less planful than we thought. And yeah, there's more to that story, of course, but it was very exciting to become parents that first time.
So it wasn't it was unplanned because it happened so quickly. I mean, that is pretty fast. But what was the pregnancy and birth experience like for you? And why did you choose doing it the way you did? First
Mhm.
babies, you were, I mean, younger, but
Yeah.
first babies usually make certain decisions.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I heard you say at the beginning that male guests are maybe a little bit less frequent. So this perspective may be
Great.
interesting. So, yeah, that first day when we found out we were pregnant, I will always remember. I went to the store to get more pregnancy tests because we only had the one, and I was like, let's get some more and let's like really be sure. And by the end of that day, we went to an info session at a local birthing center because my um, baby mama, my co-parent, my ex-wife, very empowered, strong woman, knew right away she did not want to go through the hospital route of having a baby. She
Sure.
wanted to have a natural childbirth. And so that same day we found out we were pregnant, we were getting in-person information at the birthing center about their process. And we had books at home, and we gathered a lot of information that first day. I was totally overwhelmed and
Yeah.
stressed, and more, I think, worried than excited for days and probably a few weeks. The excitement was there, but the overwhelm was the biggest emotion I was feeling, for sure. And the pregnancy process, in many ways, was wonderful because we had this birth center that we partnered with in Denver. It's not there anymore in the same form as it was then, but we worked with the midwives at the birthing center and had a doula who we loved. Highly recommend that people work with a doula because that was incredibly helpful leading up to the birth, but also the day of labor and delivery. Our doula was fantastic. So we had really good support, which we desperately needed. And that's something that I talk to people about a lot is this natural thing that like everybody had to be born. And so it should be easy. Like get lots of support, get
Yeah.
lots of information, get all the help that you can. And it was worth its weight in gold. So the overwhelming feelings like slowly faded, and the excitement really grew throughout that close to 10 months that
Yeah.
that we were pregnant.
It's a lot. I mean, good for her. I read that she was at a birth center, and that's what's rare. I mean, most people, I knew what I wanted. I was just like her, but I think most people are not sure, and
Mhm.
they stick with the hospital and then often regret it just because it they didn't get what they needed there. And so that's amazing that you had that experience the first time. And I'd add on to that, since we're advice sharing, like get all the support you need and set the boundaries that you need to, because there are sometimes, family, friends are well meaning and want to help and support. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. And so be really clear about what you need and get that support. But how amazing. That was a great. How far apart are your two kids?
Yeah, so about 2.5 years
Okay.
apart. so our first kiddo was born, like I said, in the birth. Wonderful stay. But mom had to stay back at the birthing center recovering while I got sent off with our, just born kiddo. And so me and him were together for that first 4 or 5 hours in the hospital,
Okay.
while mom was recovering. And so that was really intense. But like I said, he was fine, and it's quite a story to share now. But at the time, I became a parent and then was immediately cast into like making really big decisions, not with mom there, on my own. And they're like, "You're the dad. What do we do?" So I was not quite ready for that and really had to step into that responsibility in a way I wasn't anticipating. And was amazing for me as a person, just the growth that I felt then to go from I'm responsible for myself, I care about my partner, but they're an adult, to now I have this infant that doctors and nurses who I don't know are asking me to make decisions about. So that was really interesting. And that first year was, like for many people, extremely difficult, very stressful, not sleeping, lots of tension between mom and I, very, very challenging. And about 9 or 10 months later, we moved across the country. So we moved from Colorado to Florida, and we were together in Florida for about a year, going to couples counseling, working through stuff in our relationship that was not going very well. We both knew that we wanted to have another kid, but we had a lot of conversations about not wanting to have a kid if we were having problems. I wanted to have a kid right away. She did not want to have another baby while things were not going well between us, which I often hear in my practice now. You mentioned generations earlier. I
Mm.
say to people often, this is really the first times that I'm aware of that men are wanting to have kids and babies, and their female partners are the ones putting their foot on the brakes and having expectations. They want the relationship to feel equitable. Oftentimes, women have careers that they're protective over. And so it's a big role reversal for a lot of men in my generation that are excited to be parents and are having to wait or having to have different kinds of conversations with their partners about it. But in my situation, we did get things back on track and decided to have another baby right in time for COVID to happen in 2020.
Was
And so
fabulous.
that birth story is like a whole other thing because he was born in May of 2020, during the height of lockdown. And so he was actually born in an Airbnb that we rented, and our midwife came to us at the Airbnb there. And that was another interesting experience.
I mean, good for you and good for the midwife. Like, yeah, that was hard. The babies that were born, the women who were pregnant during that, from like March-ish to sort of the end of the year, it wasn't just that they got gypped out of an experience. There were so many rules and regulations that they lost their voice and they lost the ability to choose what they wanted. It was really, really hard. And some midwives, some people were toeing the line and doing what they were told to do by the government, and other people were like, yeah, probably not. So I'm really grateful that you had that experience, where the
Mhm.
midwife still came to you and it was totally fine. And we can look back with retrospect, like, and think that that was an overreaction and we didn't need to do all those things, but in the moment it was very, very challenging. Tell me about the Airbnb experience.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so like I said, we had moved to Florida. So we were in the Florida Keys, which most people know as a vacation spot and is very beautiful, but people do live there. And it's a pretty rural area, not tons of access to services. And so the closest midwife and the closest hospital that we could access that we felt comfortable in was a couple hours away from where we were in the Keys. And so, again, my co-parent being wonderful, did a lot of research, and we rented an Airbnb that was closer to our midwife and closer to the hospital in case we needed to be at the hospital. And we went there about 2 weeks before planned delivery date. Because of COVID, there was a checkpoint going into the Keys at that time where nobody could come into the Florida Keys without living there or having work there. And there was a checkpoint. It was a closed road. And so we shuttled in my mother-in-law. We brought her into the Airbnb. Our midwife was able to get in because she was a medical provider.
Okay.
And yeah, so we got ourselves really cozy at this Airbnb, and it was close to the water. So mom was able to, walk to the water and get a swim in each day leading up to delivery. And we had a tub that we, inflated and used,
Yep.
in the Airbnb to have that water birth experience. And yeah, no need to go to the hospital with this baby. It was very easy compared to baby number one. And yeah, healthy baby boy. We have two boys, and they're much bigger now than they were then. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're a lot of fun.
What a great experience. And was there any fear for you? Because on the first experience, you went to the birth center, things went fine, but then baby needed to be transported, and you were on your own figuring it out. Which, I mean, when we're in those situations, we just figure it out. You're doing the best job that you can. And was there concern this time, especially? I know it was good that you were close to the hospital. That was a great move. What a fun idea. What were there concerns for you, because you're the one that kind of went through that experience on your own, and mom was separate from you with no baby, which is a really tough situation for her to be in. So what were your concerns this time around, or was it just so much more relaxed? It usually is in a lot of ways more relaxed, but
Mhm.
what was
It
that like?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like you said, so much more relaxed the second time around. That transition from 0 to 1 is what I tell to all the people that I work with is the hardest. And adding from 1 to 2 or more is just different. And you've done much of it already. So it's
Yeah.
still challenging. Each kid is different. But yeah, for this one, I was much more just excited
Oh,
and
good.
kind of ready for, there to be siblings and to kind of use all of the things that I had learned the first time around now the second time around with practice.
Mhm.
So yeah, that overwhelmed feeling was not there at all in the same way. Thank goodness, because that was a lot. I didn't want to have that feeling again. I'm glad that I didn't.
Good.
And yeah, for us, the part about COVID worked out well because we were just able to be at home with our kids, and able to do a combination of working from home and kind of figuring it out, but having just really good connected family time all together, and without the stress from the first time around because we knew better what we were doing. And so I work a lot with young parents and with young families. And certainly as kids get older, there's different things that we talk through. But in that baby phase, I work with couples a lot about that transition to now having a new person in the home. Sleep looks different. Our bodies feel different. The way we relate to each other feels different. Instead of now being kind of lovers and romance partners, we're calling each other mom and dad, and it's just a different vibe.
It's not sexy the way it was in the beginning. You got to get through some stuff in the middle. Tell
Mhm.
me about your practice and how much, like, through your life experiences, but especially through your relationship and having kids, how much did that change the type of therapist you were, or the focus? Did it?
Mhm. It did, yeah. So for the 10 years leading up to becoming a parent, I had largely worked with kids. I was a school social worker, I was a residential treatment counselor. So I was working with parents and families, but my focus was more with kids and teenagers. And actually, the week my first son was born, I started a part-time private practice. So while I was home on paternity leave, feeling stressed about money and wanting to provide for my growing family, which is also a big feature of becoming a parent, I took on a second job and started growing this online private practice where I was counseling adults. And that quickly turned into relationships and couples counseling and getting training there and focusing on that because, like I mentioned, I was having big issues in my relationship with my partner at the time. And I wanted to figure that out both for myself and had an interest in helping other people through the same thing. So my practice really transitioned then. And when my oldest child went into kindergarten is when I transitioned full time into private practice because school ends at 2:30 in the afternoon. And so working a job where I was done working at 5 or 6 didn't quite work because somebody needed to pick the kids up from school.
Mhm.
And, me, like I said, wanting to be a parent from early on and having those kinds of experiences, I wanted to play at the playground and I wanted to do stuff with my kids after school. And so made a major shift then to, full time be in business for myself doing private practice counseling.
That's so great. It's crazy how much having kids changes you and how you view the world. You were going through, like you said, your own stuff from, you call it your wounded healer journey.
Mm.
You're going through, like you were talking about, your own relationship issues, and helping other people. And then I know you mentioned that you're divorced and parenting and just like all the things that go along with that. What was it like to move through that? And I want to respect your ex-wife because she's not here to chat, but how
Yes.
did the transition go for ending things and moving forward? Because that's huge too. And I think I mean, I'm divorced and most of us don't handle it as well as we could have. We don't have hindsight when you're in the middle of it all. So, um, and how has that changed your practice?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yes, she is not here, so I only say good things about her
Yeah.
when I am talking about her publicly, and I truly only say good things about her, mostly good things about her all the other times. And
Yeah.
as a parent and now as a co-parent, she's wonderful. And yeah, there were many things that happened between us that yeah, I don't need to share, want to share
Right.
publicly, but I can hurts that happened in our relationship. And there were many ways that I did not show up as the kind of partner that I wish I had, or in ways that I know I would now. With, like you said, that going through said earlier, like getting all the support, getting all the help that you need. And so we knew that there were things going on between us that were not feeling good to either one of us. And so we did go to couples counseling. We did talk with each other. We did a lot of work so that things could get better between us. And after, years and moving and having kids and doing things differently, there were some things that happened that we couldn't reconcile. And so did separate and divorce right at that same time as I mentioned our oldest child going to kindergarten. So the same summer that transition happened, we separated. I transitioned into full-time private practice and he started kindergarten. So it was a lot all at once.
Yeah.
And people really are capable of incredible things. And that's something else that I want to share as a message, like that journey of becoming a parent. Your capacity is just much more than you realize. And so becoming a parent really increases that power and changes you in unexpected ways. And so I do, like you mentioned, consider myself a wounded healer. I never want to come from a place of I have it all figured out or that I'm perfect because I'm not. But I very much use that experience that I've had to guide me and to help guide others because we will be okay. It wasn't expected or planned that we were going to separate or divorce, but we are both okay on the other side of it, and that people are resilient. So when I am doing counseling with couples, a lot of times couples will come in with the goal of we don't want to get divorced,
Right.
which is I understand that goal. And my goal is to help the two of you to be whole people in whatever version that looks like. Sometimes we do need to separate or divorce to become the whole person that we were meant to be. And we can still have a close relationship with the other person. Or within that relationship, change needs to happen. And for us to stay together, we've outgrown who we were before, and we need to see the other person as the way they are now.
Yep.
And so just that fear of getting divorced often drives, going to couples counseling. But the goal is really, how can I become the best version of myself? And, ideally, that's within this relationship. But it takes work to get there.
It takes a lot of work. I've been divorced and have been in this relationship 12 years with a blended family, which is a whole nother set of issues.
Mhm.
And you do have to grow together. Things change a lot over time. And I don't think we're the same people, but in a lot of ways we are. And it's just keeping that. I mean, for us, it's just been keeping really that communication open with those
Mhm.
changes, and that's I think it's a scary thing to do.
It certainly is to let somebody in. Yeah.
Really let them
That's,
in. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. And to believe that they are going to love and accept what they see, right? That's just a core part of our vulnerability as humans who we need to be in relationships in order to survive and not wanting to feel rejected. So, yeah, being able to be seen and to trust that the other person will like us for who we are and, light and dark all mixed together. Absolutely.
Dr. Dan, thank you so much for sharing your information. You're in certain states. So tell me where, because you do telehealth and people can, we have the website where people can download things, they can connect with you even if they're not in those states. But to actually do therapy, where are you located?
Yeah, so great question. So there's two ways to work with me. So I can anybody anywhere can join my program that I have. It's not therapy, it's an educational program that helps couples move from conflict to connection. I call that program the Intimacy Shift for lots of reasons, but mainly because in relationships, if you're in one long enough, intimacy will change and shift. And so anyone anywhere can join that program. And that's again at intimacyshift.com, where you can leave your email and get a really great PDF guide that I've created to help couples have more structured, healthy communication with each other. Like you just mentioned, so important because we really only have our words to communicate with each other. We're not mind readers. And then to work with me directly, like one on one as a client, so either as a couple or as an individual, I can serve couples who are living in Illinois, Colorado, Florida, or North Carolina. Those are the places that I've lived where I maintain my license.
That's great. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your perspective and your information. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.